Hello, beloveds. Oh, this quest to become closer to Divine Mother. And how do we do that?
Oh, wow.
I
Well,
mean,
there's a lot of
a
ways,
lot of
don't you
ways,
think?
yeah?
Yeah. So let's just talk about one of them.
Well, I've been pondering for me right now in my life, what's going to be the most effective thing? Is it going to be prayer? Is it
Mm.
going to be deep meditation, reflection on the universe, immersing myself in love? But I think there's something here that can bring all of those things together
Mm.
in a sort of beautiful way. And that is seeing the divine presence in everything.
So, okay, hold on. Literally everything? Like this stick?
This stack.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Zen people talk about Buddha being present in everything, even dog poo poo, Buddha nature. The Taoists talk about the Tao being what moves through everything, the Force, for the
The
Jedi,
force,
the
yes.
Force. And to me, I guess I've always felt this, that divinity is not separate from the
Mm.
world. That's the way it's presented in some, I feel like in the non mystical aspects of Christianity or Islam, for instance, there's a proposed separation
Tell me what
that,
you mean.
that God has created a dominion
Mm.
that he rules over. He knows everything that happens within it, but he is not part of it.
Mm. Okay.
Where for the Hindus, for the mystical aspects of Christianity or Islam, I feel like there is more of an emphasis that we see in those Eastern religions that divine power, energy infuses everything. So God does not just create this, but becomes this,
Okay.
and thus knows it much more intimately. And that's, to me, ever since we first started talking about Divine Mother, I felt like Divine Mother is in everything, and not just the things, but is my thoughts,
Mm.
is our emotions.
How do you deal with things then that could be construed as negative? Negative thoughts that I might have, or things that I struggle with. For example, a stick that's easy to see comes from a tree, seems very connected. What about a plastic bag? What about frac sand mining? What about all of that stuff? Is also Divine Mother that stuff too?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we see this. I mean, that's that age-old question of the evil in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we see a loving being as becoming or creating all of this? And I think the answer to that comes through feeling this connection with everything, feeling like everything is part of everything else.
Okay.
Because when I separate out, let's use a simple example of that plastic bag.
Okay.
So that plastic bag, to me, maybe my mind latches onto it and says, litter. This is
Mm.
terrible. To the ants that are going to shelter under it tonight when it's pouring rain, it's just a wonderful covering of shelter. To the artist, it, it gets caught on a stick, and the way light is playing off of it becomes a thing of beauty. Even among humans or animals, we can see that there's many perspectives we can take.
That's
You
true.
and I might think frac sand is horrible. The person that's making a lot of money and enriching their lives from it may think of it as a good thing. There's different perspectives. We like to think our perspective is the
Yes,
right one,
it's very true.
yes? But Divine Mother, of course, can see things from every perspective simultaneously.
Wow.
Can see, even in, you and I have had some experiences of some considerable pain
Hmm.
from some things that have happened in our lives. That pain, bad, but yet we've been able to see, even from our limited perspective, the pain happening to us, we've been able to see good things come out of that. And
Aw,
yeah,
hi little guy. So cute.
yeah, when we get to the things we feel is good, then wow, but that'll be something to talk about. We just won't have this little friend probably to help us with it. But look at the way he or she moves around.
He's definitely looking for something other than your hand.
Right. I mean, there's a world that this creature is experiencing. And if we think of this as Divine Mother experiencing the world through this, Fraxan, you just say that, it has all kinds of stuff in our mind.
Yeah.
Probably Fraxan doesn't exist in
Mm.
this creature's mind. There's other things going on that are of
That we maybe
import or
can't
concern. Yes.
even comprehend.
Yes. So that, I think, reminds us that whenever we see bad things, there's something there. There's a reminder that our human perspective is limited.
Okay. So maybe some of the things that I think are negative, I can see as opportunities to go deeper. And if I invite Divine Mother in and see her as all things, then perhaps I have the ability to open more into something beyond my own belief about the world. Because I think you're right in that there's so many perspectives, there's so many beliefs. How, I guess I can't see myself saying, this is the right one, this is the only one.
Yeah.
Even,
That's
I mean, even with the path of Divine Mother, that's what works for me. But there might be some of you out there that that are playing Harry Potter right now, and
I'm not sure if they can hear that. Where our mic is directional, but there's
oh,
kids playing out here.
it's so great. Oh, somebody else is playing too. Um, so even Divine Mother, that's one belief, one way of trying to connect with something that perhaps is permeating everything. I like to think of a seed that we plant. Is the oak tree in the acorn? Well, the oak tree isn't really in the acorn, but if you don't plant the acorn, there's not an oak tree. So somehow they're there
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. That's. I saw somebody's. It was. I don't know if we were at some kind of. Oh, we were at the arboretum,
Okay.
and there was the how plants, going from seed to germination to,
Mm.
but they did it in a circle, so there was no starting point at that
Oh,
circle,
nice.
and it was one of those things. Just witnessing that, I had another one in the garage that I'll talk to you about.
Oh, yeah.
These realizations when we suddenly feel this unity and this connection with everything. When we feel that tangibly, we experience life differently. I think this is one of the coolest things about the path of Divine Mother is that it asks us to fall in love. And in falling in love, we step outside of our limited
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint and perspective. Ultimately, to feel emerging with Divine Mother and to realize that maybe there are not the same lines there that we thought.
Yeah.
So she is becoming you, me, you, playing a role. We imagine that I'm Kenton and Rebecca and you, but in reality, there's no line there, except for a line in our imagination, and that imagination line is one we're drawing all the time. I like to
Yeah.
think it starts with a seed, and then it
Yeah.
germinates and
Yes. Yes.
becomes a
Yes.
plant, but no line there.
Yeah. Reminds me of sometimes there's a likening to it, the world being the ocean, and we're just a wave. And we can say
Yes.
that wave, and we can follow it and watch it coming to shore. But truly, you can't scoop that up, and then you have that one wave. It's really the ocean. So
the wave, an apparent reality, a thing we can point to, we give it a name,
we can surf it.
we can get hurt by it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have fun.
And yet, where's the line
Yeah.
between it and the ocean?
Hard to remember that in our daily lives, though. So you should talk about the garage experience, because what I want to talk about a little bit is how do we access that in our regular lives? Because we can have a moment where we pause and we can say, oh, yeah, I get that, and maybe even in our heads, makes a lot of sense. It's harder to get it into the heart, and then even harder to get into daily, everyday looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to talk a little bit about your experience and how ways that we all could do that.
Yeah. We can start with that intellectual kind of approach that you mentioned. This doesn't get into our heart yet, but it can appeal to that part of our brain that wants to think of something as real. Most of us are brought up with at least let me see if I can cover from the wind here. Most of us were brought up with a very religious or a very scientific view of the world. If we're brought up with that kind of mechanical, science-based view of the world, even there we can see, well, the more science explores, way back with the Greeks, they thought of the atom, this thing that was a single underlying reality that was underneath all of everything, making everything up.
Okay.
And so the more we explore that in science, the more we say, yeah, there's either a basic or some basic constituents from which everything else is created. Convincing myself of that a little bit intellectually can be good. But as you say, we want to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling, that can happen as we break down the intellectual, or we use different intellectual ideas to break down our current worldview. But then we also will start to just viscerally experience feelings of connection. This is so what happened to me in the garage. I was working with some tools, power tools in the garage. It was very surrounded by electricity and metal and plastic sort of experience that I was having. I think I was working on the car, and not a place that feels easy to feel connected with the world for me.
You.
For me,
Right.
yes. Again, different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who loves mechanical things is totally different.
Yeah.
But suddenly I felt it. I felt every grain of sand on the floor, then the cement floor, the cement itself, the electric garage opener up there, the car itself, the tires, all these things, Divine Mother playing, being these, and that there's a perspective perhaps in every single one that I was not privy to in this form. What is it to be a piece of sand there that gets stepped on and rolled on the cement floor? If Divine Mother is in everything, there's a consciousness in everything, and everything's experiencing life. I felt, even in that instance, surrounded by friends, by fellow beings that were experiencing life in their own way, perhaps as inconceivable to them, mine, as mine is to theirs. And wow, what a feeling and experience. Of course, much easier to do if we take an environment. For you and I would be nature, or surrounded by family or friends, and then to look and to have that namaste attitude. Look at another person and say, that is Divine Mother blossoming in this form, experiencing the world through this form. And how do I treat things? I treat things differently then.
Yeah. Well, so do you have any suggestions for how to bring this into a more regular or even daily practice?
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, do you have
Oh gosh.
suggestions?
Do I have suggestions?
Yeah.
Well, I know for me, the hardest part is just remembering. So, because it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
And so that would be a completely different conversation about not getting distracted by the what we think of as reality
Oh,
and the things that
yes.
we think of as most important, as in getting things done. That's a completely different conversation. But I think finding a way that you could remind yourself, finding a way that I can remind myself, being a part of a partnership or a group of people who are holding each other accountable. And I don't mean, oh, you better do this, but I mean, hey, did you get to do that yesterday? Okay. Do you want me to call you today? And I'll call you randomly and I'll say, hey, are you doing it? Getting people to join you. It's a lot of times easier if you have external motivation. But then when you do remember, picking something, just at one thing, it's easier for me to do one thing. Oh, hey, that woman at the cash register that I'm going to go to, she's Divine Mother.
Mm.
Wow. Uh, Sometimes it's helpful in a situation where I might be feeling nervous or frustrated if I see the source of my frustration as Divine Mother. That kind of, if I can do it, can pull me out really quick into, oh, okay, is there a message for me
Oh,
here?
there's something here.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
that's Divine Mother. She loves me. She loves the world. What am I not seeing? Or how can I listen? Hey, Divine Mother, what is it you have here for me? Can you help me? I'm just getting pulled out of, again, that normal distracted, just kind of blazed pathway in our brains. So I'm not sure if that was useful or not.
Yeah.
I
See,
didn't
this
give
is
a
why you should
I
talk
didn't give
more.
a clear, concise. I don't feel as though life is clear and concise very easily. It's all about being a guinea pig and trying, and it can be something that you set as an intention. You can have a weekly intention. This week I want to try to see people as Divine Mother, and then every day when you wake up you can say, oh, that's right, this week I'm trying to see everything as Divine Mother. And maybe you attach it to something. That's another way. So maybe every time you're brushing your teeth, you say, I'm going to pick one thing I see to think of as Divine Mother. uh, I don't know, if you have a gratitude practice, attach it to gratitude
Mm.
practice. We practice gratitude throughout the day. We have a couple of prayer times throughout the day, and it's easy if you've already got something to practice it then. And then if you can get it for one thing for a while, then attach it to another thing. I'm going to do my teeth brushing in the morning, and then I'm going to do eating lunch in the afternoon. Maybe I sit at my desk, maybe I go for a walk with a coworker. I'm going to do it then as well. Those are my suggestions.
I think starting with people is often easiest
Mm-hmm.
for us because we relate to other humans so well. And you have that ease of choosing somebody that you really love,
Yeah.
connect with, and say, there's Divine Mother looking back at me. You can look in the mirror and do the same
Mm.
with yourself.
Challenging.
That might be more challenging for some of us. But, and then the things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a butterfly right over there, a monarch.
Mm.
Pretty easy
Yeah.
to look and imagine there's Divine Mother manifesting as that. But what we're doing, I think, with a lot of this is we're creating shifts in our consciousness.
Mm.
Shifts
Yeah.
out of the illusion of us as an isolated bag of flesh in the
Mm-hmm.
universe that is separate from everything else by clear, definable lines that I call Kenton.
Yeah.
And
What happened if you just stopped your air connection?
the air connection,
Not so much a Kenton anymore.
yeah, I guess when I'm at my best, I'd have about 4 minutes, huh?
But it's easy to forget.
It is easy to forget. It's easy to be sucked into this idea that here's where I am. There's this boundary
Yeah.
of my skin.
You, like you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we do this practice, it's also nice if you can get into it to start feeling it. So if you can do it with a person you love, and then you can turn and you can continue with something in nature,
Mm-hmm.
eventually you get this overwhelming sensation that you are not alone. And I almost kind of liken it to a note in a whole orchestra or a single instrument's voice that's blending with hundreds of other instruments to make this incredible symphony.
Hmm.
And you don't feel so alone anymore. It's a great way to feel a connection.
I love that you use music because I feel as if one of the biggest aspects of any deep spirituality is this shifting of our consciousness from knowing. Our
Hmm.
culture puts so much emphasis
Yeah.
on knowing, putting labels and lines around things, to listening, hearing that
Mm.
music. When we
Mm-hmm.
listen, we're open to new things, we're open to changing and shifting. And when we allow that openness, then we can start to get out of those boxes that
Yeah.
we put around the world that we take to be real.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of examination to look at some of those boxes, like the wave,
Mm-hmm.
and to recognize, oh, there's not a clear line.
Yeah.
You do it pretty easily with a person.
Yeah. We really do have blinders, and it's not necessarily our fault. There's a little bug crawling across. I think what's beautiful is if this is easy for you to do, or you already practice this and you want something more challenging, is to take something that you feel certain about. As we're saying, something you know without a doubt that McDonald's is the most awful place in the whole world, or this person is just a not nice person, and say, hey, that's an expression of Divine Mother, and see what comes. What do you learn? What do you learn about yourself and what you think about things? Can you allow space for there to be a game going on, a masquerade ball, if you will,
Mm.
a story that has elements in it, that it isn't just this perfect forever, but there's people learning and growing? What can you learn from somebody? Is there more to them or the thing that you see? And it doesn't mean you have to go around saying, oh, yes, I now fully support this. It's just, can you see, can you grant, can you find a space for a moment where that could be Divine Mother? And that's a great place to grow from. Not easy to do, but very interesting to go there when you're ready for it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up that it doesn't mean that we can't try to change the reality that is McDonald's. But we're honestly going to have a better time changing that if we can understand on a deeper level
Mm-hmm.
what it is in our collective experience as Divine Mother that's creating this
Yeah.
reality of McDonald's. If we don't understand it at all we'll do is rail against it. And honestly, we'll probably have a lot of trouble changing it.
Yeah.
But we can change things that we understand on a deeper level. And that can happen through social movements and actual action. And it can also, I feel like, happen
Mm.
with some things almost magically.
Yeah.
There's things that you'll see in the world that you might be railing against right now. You come to a deeper understanding of it, and you might see that the next year it's just a shift and change because you have come to it from a different perspective, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any actual proof that there's anything else out there or that we are the reality that we think we are. That's also another conversation for another time. But the point is that if you can use these tools to make your life more connected, and you can use these concepts to fill yourself with love and with compassion, and therefore go out and be a person who can shine a brighter light, then why not use them? Why not try? Experiment and have fun with it.
Seeing Divine Mother in everything, in every body, in every thought, experience, emotion.
Yeah.
The more we do this, the more the world starts to shift around us in pretty incredible ways. A lot of this just comes because we're no longer spending so much time resisting things
Mm-hmm.
in the same way as we did before.
I got to say something.
Yeah.
I have a really good friend, and she was reading this book, so that's what it comes from. I can't remember what the book is called, but she said, what we perceive, we receive.
Mm.
And I thought about that for a long time, and I think, wow, what if we perceive everything as Divine Mother? What would we
Oh, wow.
receive in our lives if that's what we could truly experience? So,
That's a good parting thought.
Yeah, so tell us what's your journey? What do you experience? How do you see divine in everything? What are your struggles and how have you overcome them if you have? Just this should be a place of sharing and growing and ideas because it is kind of a great grand experiment, a game, and we should try out all sorts of different things and find what works. And sometimes we change. Different things work once, and then a different time down the road, we need something new. So I hope that you'll share with us your journey too.
So much love to you all, and we'll talk with you in the comments.